All right, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This pivot session, week one, is going to focus on job and internship search during COVID-19. So, real quick before we start, this session is being recorded for the purpose of making it available to others at a later date. Be aware of that. Everyone is muted. However, please use the chat feature to ask questions throughout the presentation. The chat is being monitored by a staff member who can make sure your questions are answered. So, be sure to get those questions in. All right, well, let's pivot. All right, meet your host. Here we are. I'm Brett McLemore, career coach for STEM majors and undecided students. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Gianna Antonio. I'm the career coach for students in the College of Arts and Sciences within non-STEM majors.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Katie Krikorian. I am the career coach for students in the College of Music and Media.
Excellent. And this is the team that's with you today. What we're going to talk about is one, we'll look over the employer trends and the hiring landscape that we're currently finding ourselves in. We'll talk about resources available to you for job success, job search success, advice and tips for job and internship seekers, and then what it is to be pivoting into this. All right, so let's start with the employer trends and hiring landscape. Right now, we've got 269 employers that have currently active jobs posted to Handshake. And so Handshake is our platform that we use. Our job and internship board is where you'll find our employers that we're connected to virtually, as well as we have working relationships with a lot of these employers as well. This is where they're trying to connect with you and where they're posting their jobs. And so right now we got 269 of those employers with active job postings. Now, what are the top 10 industries within those active jobs? You'll see that the education sector is certainly leading the way. A lot of opportunities within K-12. There's also higher education and other education represented in this chart. But you'll also notice that there's a lot of variety. There's nonprofit sector work being posted. There's internet and software. There's also things like government and local, state, and federal opportunities. There's social assistance. One of the things that's interesting too is during this time we've noticed that some industries have obviously taken a hit. Sports and leisure, even though you can see it's one of the top 10 industries being recruited right now. There is a little bit of a tick down there, and then there's also some other industries, particularly within the service industries, that are being impacted in the entertainment industry. But with government, for example, there's hardly any at this point. There's hardly any difference in what you would have seen previous last year. That is so. Where are these people, these recruiters coming from, and what are these job postings? What do they look like right now in terms of geography? So you would imagine that the two biggest states that we have, California and Texas, within the continental U.S., are going to be heavily recruiting, and that is the case. California and Texas are our top two states with postings out there, and then Louisiana is second, which makes complete sense for us. We're in the greater New Orleans area. Louisiana is our state. We're going to see a lot of employers that we're connecting to trying to recruit for this area, and we're hiring a lot of folks as a state and in the city still, despite circumstances. So those are where you're seeing a lot of the postings. The difference between last year's numbers and this year's numbers, you can see here, new jobs posted. Last year, you had just over 10,000 new jobs posted. This year, we're just shy of 9,000. So there is a difference of about 14%. It may feel like it's worse. I think there's part of us that feels a lot of trepidation about where we currently find ourselves and concerned about the job market. But the difference is noticeable, 14%, but maybe not as drastic as it may seem or appear to be. However, again, it depends on what industry you're going into as well, as mentioned earlier. So, obviously keep that in mind. There are 475,000 plus jobs posted in LinkedIn, for example, that are jobs that actually are urgently a reflection of companies that are urgently hiring as a result of COVID-19. So even though there is a problem when you're going into certain industries, and it's problematic, that is, when you're going into certain industries, there's still opportunities out there. There's still results of there are still jobs being provided as a result of the outbreak. And a lot of these jobs, there's about 200,000 of these that are entry level, a little over 200,000 or so that are entry level jobs, and so that's encouraging. A good number of these are related to the healthcare industry that are reflected in this number as well in some capacity. But the healthcare industry isn't just patient care. I mean, there's a lot going on within the healthcare industry, and there's a lot of hiring that still occurs as a result, not just for, say, medical staff and medical professionals. Okay, now, again, the recession is going to affect different sectors very unevenly. So be cautious of companies that represent non-essential discretionary spending like travel, restaurants, and entertainment. We've talked about that a little bit here. I touched on that earlier. These are the places where you're going to notice that difference. The capital intensive businesses like manufacturing also during this time of recession, we'll see some decline in opportunity, and then business models that depend highly on ads as well. So when a recession hits, a lot of times some of the first places that might be companies might look to save on their budget and cut some expenses is within that marketing, within their marketing budget. So keep that in mind as you move forward as well. A recession is a difficult time, but it's also a time with when entire markets shift and new opportunities open up for the most ambitious. This really is one of those times where there will be new jobs that are created as a result of where we find ourselves, and there will be new opportunities that didn't exist previously. Even though we are losing certain opportunities or we're seeing a decline in some of these opportunities, there will be new opportunities that are born out of this. And so keep your eyes open for those opportunities, and particularly as it relates to the industries that you're most interested in working in, see how it's shifting to meet the new needs that we find ourselves in. All right, now, resources available for job search success. I'm going to actually tag in one of my colleagues here.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about some of the resources that we share with our students here at Loyola, how you can access them, and the different benefits of each. So first, what you're going to look at is our webpage. So when you go to success.loyola.edu/careers, you'll see the Students tab, and when you click on the Job and Internships tab, you'll see a list of all of the resources that we use. So on the next slide, you'll see this full list and a tiny explanation of each one. So Brent just talked a little bit about Handshake and LinkedIn. Handshake is great because every job on there is approved by someone in Loyola's Career Center, and LinkedIn is great because it just has the most postings. Every single day you'll find something new there as well. And on top of that, we'll look at a few more, but always keep in mind that usajobs.gov is the one-stop shop for any job, any federal job, and WorkNola is a great resource within the city of New Orleans. So let's look a little bit more into LinkedIn again. So like Brent said, there are about 475,000 plus jobs on LinkedIn, which can be overwhelming, but the way that I like to see kind of LinkedIn versus Handshake is when you're on Handshake, you're a big fish in a little pond, right? Because there's less jobs there. They're all very tailored towards Loyola students. It's only entry-level roles and things that are majors at Loyola, whereas on LinkedIn, they have from entry level to senior level roles available. But you will be able to save your search on here, and LinkedIn is very intuitive. As you add things to your profile and as you look for jobs on LinkedIn, they'll start sending you emails of actually 10 new job postings that you might have missed. LinkedIn is that they have recruiters on there and people that are looking to hire people as well. So once again, as you work on LinkedIn, you might get messages from recruiters saying, hey, we just posted a job and this is a really great role that you might fit into. So LinkedIn will definitely be a more interactive experience during your job search. Career Shift is another website that we really enjoy because unlike Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, and Handshake, where employers are posting jobs on there, CareerShift does not have any employer posting jobs on here. It's more of a Google for the job search. So any public URL that has a job posting, so think about, bigger organizations that might only post their jobs on their website, this will find that for you. So even Loyola, most of our jobs are posted directly on Loyola's website, and Career Shift can pull those jobs for you. And you can narrow it down through the advanced job search. You can add your location, you can add entry-level role, you can add internship, part-time, full-time. And in the same thing here, you can save your search, and Career Shift will send you opportunities that come available that you might have missed. And another great thing about Career Shift is that you can search by company name, and you can also look at the different contacts on each company. So similar to how LinkedIn has different profiles, on Career Shift you can connect with professionals or learn about professionals and what their path looked like. And then worknola.com is the best resource if you're trying to stay within the city of New Orleans. Most of the bigger businesses here post their job opportunities, lots of internships and full-time jobs. But as you can see at the top of this screen, they have their coronavirus update. So if you're in immediate need of a job, whether it's part-time or full-time, you can click on that new job opportunities. They'll show you local jobs, and they'll also show you bigger organizations that just need people within the city of New Orleans. And they also have unemployment resources and support as well. And this is just really beneficial because sometimes when you start Googling things about unemployment or maybe some type of support, it's, find more things about your individual state, and WorkNola is kind of the one-stop shop for you in Louisiana if you need those resources. Right now, it's really important to stay up to date with new opportunities. So find different articles, find different business reports that you enjoy reading or you find engaging. I linked 2 articles here. One of them is Who's Hiring, and that's just from the New Orleans Business Report. And like worknola.com, they had some local and different national organizations that were hiring within the city. And then the next article I linked is 33 companies eager to hire amid COVID-19, and that came from Glassdoor. In that article, about every 2 weeks changes its numbers. So sometimes it's 50 companies hiring, sometimes it's 40 companies. And so that's great to stay up to date with, to see, are there new organizations maybe within my industry? What industries are constantly or consistently on here? What is going to be something good for me to take away from this? And then I've also listed some opportunities or some websites here for remote and freelance work. So obviously, we are all at home right now working from home, but if you're looking for opportunities for remote work, or if you want to do some freelance work, whether it's editing, publishing, writing, you can use Upwork, Fiverr. Parker Dewey is a good resource for little micro internships. So it's a shorter amount of time, maybe smaller projects, but it's a good way to get maybe different types of experiences. And then JobsPresser and Remote.co are other remote opportunity websites as well. And then I think the best thing that I can encourage you to do is to meet with a career coach, especially during these times. We kind of just want to walk you through and help you navigate these very interesting waters. But the reason why meeting with a career coach is going to be a little bit more beneficial than, going through these presentations with us is that you'll get the one-on-one personalized career coaching. So we'll figure out what your needs are, what your skill set is, and where we can find good opportunities for you to succeed in the workplace. And then we'll help you set some goals and build a realistic roadmap, right? So, we'll take whatever that dream job is and figure out what jobs you need to get and find it there, and we'll make sure it's realistic. And then we'll help you build your confidence because, some of those skills and abilities that you do and you use every single day, you might not even see as a skill. And so we'll help you kind of find those different things and hone in on those so that you can create strong application materials. And we'll help you create the best strategy to land that dream job. It definitely takes some work and some time to get to what your ultimate goal is, but we'll make sure that we're setting you up for success on that journey. And now I'm going to pass it off to Katie to give you some more advice during this time.
Great, thanks so much. Yeah, we're gonna spend a few minutes just talking through some practical advice and tips for job seekers during COVID. We've spent some time curating the best content and best advice and tips from human resources professionals, recruiters, career strategists, and hiring managers, and this is what they're all telling job seekers to be thinking through during the coronavirus. So the first piece of advice is to give yourself and others time. As Gianna just mentioned, it does take time to strategize and to research and make a plan for your job applications and preparing your materials. So you really want to give yourself time to prepare those documents and be researching what companies you want to apply to and identifying those opportunities. Also, networking takes time, reaching out to people in your network to potentially conduct, informational interviews or, connecting with people to see if they have any job leads for you. That takes time. And you also want to allow time for employers and contacts to respond to you, because everybody has stuff going on right now during the pandemic, and you want to just, be gracious and give other people time to respond to you. So time is a very important thing that you just, want to make sure you're scheduling and setting aside specific time to be, working on all of these things. All right, next is definitely adapting to the current hiring process. So right now, majority of interviews and hiring is being done virtually. So knowing how to conduct a successful interview is essential. It's really important to test your technology, test your lighting, your background, making sure that you have the proper technology in place to have a successful virtual interview. If you've never done that before, had a Zoom interview or a Skype interview or even a phone interview, your career coach is available to conduct a mock interview with you, which is a really good opportunity for you to practice talking about your skills, talking about your experience, because the more you articulate, those things, the better and more confident you get at it. And it's just a really great opportunity for you to kind of have to simulate what that would be like with an employer or a hiring manager. So keeping in mind that interviews are being done online, and you want to make sure that it all goes smoothly. So make sure to test all of that stuff. Next is focusing on things that you can control. We are definitely in unmapped territory right now. Not many of us have lived through a pandemic or been working through a pandemic. So you want to focus on things that you can control. And these are things like your actions, your preparation, your commitment, and your emotions. These are all things that are, again, going to attribute to your confidence with applying to jobs, with your feeling ready to tackle a new opportunity or to, embrace new responsibilities. But these are all things that you can control and that you can continue to develop and be strengthening while we're all in a social distant world. Next piece of advice is to know yourself. Really taking this time right now to assess your skills, your values, and your interests. The Career Center has several interest inventories for you that are available for you to be working on right now. The main two that we use is Focus 2 and the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. Both of these are accessible through the Career Center, and you can access them on Handshake. The Focus 2 is really user-friendly interest assessment that's going to give you self-interpretable results that is just great great information for you to continue to unpack and really see where your strengths and your values lie in light of your career. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, you definitely want to set up a time for your career coach to unpack those results with you. But again, it's just going to give you really great content and information in light of what strengths and your preferences that you're going to bring to an organization. That's really great for you to be talking about in an interview and with your network. It's also great to create a list of your academic and non-academic experiences so that you can, really talk about how versatile your skills are and all the experiences that, will aid in your ability to land a new job. And then really taking some time to assess where your strengths and your transferable skills are. Because those are, the things that are very attractive to employers and hiring managers, and they want to know that, the candidate, has the best fit for the job. All right, next piece of advice is to cast a wide net. You definitely right now want to be pursuing multiple opportunities, whether it's in your area of interest, in your particular industry or not. It's good to be curious about other opportunities that you might be able to land right now during the coronavirus. It's important to not just apply online through different job boards. While those are very helpful and strong research tools, you want to be having conversations with your friends, with your family, classmates, former faculty, career coaches, having conversations about where you're applying to so that you could potentially find a strategic in with an organization. And if you're not sure what to say in those conversations, if you want to reach out via email, then we've got some templates for you on our website that will help give you some language to strategically, be communicating with your network. All right, next is to stay organized through the job search. This is a really strategic way to track where you have been applying to, where you intend to apply to. So it's a really great idea just to be logging everything that you're finding that you're interested in one spot so that you can follow up with it if you've sent an application, if you have found an opportunity that you want to apply to, but you want to do a little bit more research. It's just a really good idea, whether you use a spreadsheet, whether you write it down in a planner. Just make sure that you're consistent with staying organized through your job search and who you're connecting with so that you have all of that information in one spot. All right, and I'm going to kick it back to Brent, and we're going to get ready to pivot. Sorry, Brent, I think you're muted.
You are correct. Thank you, Katie. So, yeah, we're going to talk about pivoting with patience and strategy. We're going to actually, this section is really just discussing the nature of pivoting into this and using some examples from previous times, such as the Great Depression, where you found yourself in a difficult situation, right? This was a market that was reduced and opportunities as a result that were reduced because of financial circumstances, the economy being what it was. And so this particular example here, pivoting with patience and strategy, this is really looking at a story of the Great Depression brewers. So you had the Depression, obviously an economic impact on everyone. But then interestingly enough, with brewers, you also had Prohibition. And so you got 25% of workers without jobs, but you also have restrictions from the government that are creating additional strains on your own ability to be successful in your profession and what you have chosen, your career path, what you've chosen to do, right? So one of the things that the brewers did in order to make the most of this, to pivot and use the what tools were available to them, what resources, what strategies they could, was to really diversify how they were entering them, or how they were meeting needs and what they were providing. And so they found a way to shift and pivot into opportunities like running dairies and selling meat, venturing out into other agricultural enterprises. Brewers also were allowed to make near beer that had only a trace amounts of alcohol. And then brewers also started applying their expertise to non-alcoholic drinks such as root beer, right? So there's what they intended to do, and then there's a shift, a pivot to do other things that had similar skill sets that were required of them to be done, or they also might have been close, maybe taking them out of the industry, but in some way being able to transfer their skill set right into other opportunities, seeing what opportunities were there and grabbing a hold to those. So in the end, waiting out the storm by diversifying turned out to be a sound strategy. As of 2019, the 5 best-selling beers in America are all produced by pre-Prohibition, pre-Great Depression brands. And so they were patient enough to, they said, hey, this is what I would like to do. This is the dream that I have. This is my career path that I've chosen and would like to stick to. Circumstances being what they are, I'm not allowed to do that right now. I got to figure out a way to keep the dream alive and yet be practical about meeting the needs that I have and meeting the needs of others through my own ability to serve and to provide for those needs, right? So that's one strategy. Another story, well, actually, pivoting with patience and strategy, the things that we have learned, the agility to flex into the opportunities presented, right? The intentionally moving through the now with your eyes on the future. Again, you don't have to give up on your dream. That dream is out there. That those career aspirations that you have are there. Don't give up on them. You move toward them, even though maybe you have to pivot into something else for the time being. And it could be within the industry, pivoting into an opportunity that keeps you within the industry, but that is different from what you had set out to do, or pivoting into a different industry, but that has a similar skill set and a way to kind of build yourself toward coming back into the industry or the opportunities that you're most interested in. And then one of the Jesuit ideals that this ties back to is that contemplative vision formed by hope. So even though we are certainly in a time that would create some measure of despair if we let it, there's also the idea and the reality that we can be hopeful and we can do things here, as Katie suggested, things that are in our control to be hopeful and to move forward in that vision of hope, and those career aspirations that we do have can still come to fruition. We just, for the time being, pivot. All right, now we're going to talk about pivoting through reinvention. So for some folks, this is an opportunity to do something very different than what they had set out to do, but it could be something that they still find incredibly satisfying. In fact, maybe even more satisfying than what they would have done had this current pandemic and economic recession not occurred, right? So this story of E.Y. Yip Harburg is one of pivoting through reinvention. So he said that after his business went bankrupt during the Great Depression, all that he had left was a pencil. His friend Gershwin told him to get the pencil and rhyming dictionary and start writing songs. And so Harburg eventually wrote the Depression classic, Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? And the lyrics to songs in The Wizard of Oz. So when his take on this whole thing was, when I lost my possessions, I found my creativity. I felt like I was being born for the first time. So for me, the world became beautiful. Again, this is not an ideal situation for anybody to be entering into as they get ready to graduate or as they have graduated and they're in this market. But it is an opportunity for reinvention. As Yip Harburg found, this was an opportunity for him to do something completely different than what he had done in the past, and to be, in fact, more satisfied with this career path and this option than he would have been had he stuck it out with his previous business. And this is an opportunity for you as well to reflect and think, okay, what is this? What am I about to do? What was I going to do? Can I still do that? Do I still want to do that? Is there an opportunity to do something else? So reflecting on your interests, the abilities that you have, the opportunities that are there to discover new possibilities, and seeing, are these things that I would like to do? Is there something different than that could be better for me? Allow yourself to consider your career aspirations and not be so married to them at this point in time because of the investment of time and money that you put into them. You might be reluctant to do that, but it is okay to reflect on them at this point and reconsider them if necessary, given circumstances, and see if there's something else there. Good results can come from a bad situation is another thing that we've learned from this particular story, that even though things aren't necessarily, again, ideal, these aren't ideal circumstances, but there's still good results that can be brought about as a result of these. So this ties back into that Jesuit ideal of development of personal potential. What can we do to continue to develop ourselves, to develop our potential, and to meet the circumstances that we find ourselves in successfully, and to take advantage of those opportunities that are being presented to us. All right, so this is a time for us to ask questions. So if you got questions, drop them in the chat and we'll answer those. But you can also email your questions to career@loyono.edu. You can find us at our website at success.loyono.edu/careers. And then you can make appointments with us through Handshake. There's the direct link, loyono.joinhandshake.com/appointments. And as Gianna mentioned, that one-on-one career coaching is something that we're proud to offer, happy to offer, because it helps us to really individualize our approach with you, because we can sit with you and specifically address your own concerns, your needs, the things that you'd like to talk about, and what resources are available to help you. And so we really encourage those appointments and ask that you certainly consider those. And you can, again, make those appointments through Handshake at that site. Once you log into Handshake, you can also go to the Career Center tab, and you'll find under the Career Center page on Handshake, there's the Appointments tab as well. Katie, Gianna, do you have anything to add?
Thank y'all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Excellent.
everyone.
Thank you all.
All right. Have a great day.
All right.